Today, let us address the modern preoccupation with what are termed toxic people. The very phrase born of a culture that prizes therapeutic sentiment over objective analysis is a confession of weakness. It frames the world as a simplistic dichotomy of the healthy and the toxic, where the former is positioned as the blameless passive victim of the latter's malevolence. This is the lexicon of the sheep designed to elicit sympathy, not to achieve victory. A prince, a man who seeks to sculpt his destiny from the crude clay of the world, does not complain of toxicity. He diagnoses ambition. He identifies threats. He analyzes vulnerabilities. He sees the world not as a sanatorium of wounded feelings, but as an arena of competing wills. The individuals you label toxic are not a monolithic plague. To categorize them as such is a strategic error, for it blinds you to the specific nature of the challenge each represents. They are in fact a predictable collection of human archetypes that have populated the courts of power since time immemorial. To master the art of statecraft, you must first master this taxonomy of human nature. You will encounter the ambitious rival who views your ascent as a direct threat to his own. His attacks, whether subtle or overt, are not personal. They are tactical moves in a zero-sum game for position and influence. The insecure nuisance who lacks the capacity for a direct challenge but seeks to elevate his own fragile standing by chipping away at yours through gossip, insinuation, and the sowing of discord. He is the jackal that nips at the heels of the lion. The unwitting pawn. A person of genuine but misguided grievances whose emotions are easily inflamed and weaponized by a more cunning hidden hand. He is the soldier who believes he is fighting for a noble cause when in fact he is merely a tool in another man's war. And most usefully, the predictable fool whose actions are governed entirely by uncontrolled ego and reflexive emotion. He is not so much a threat as he is a constant and invaluable source of intelligence, for he confesses his entire strategy with every outburst. To call all these figures merely toxic is to surrender the immense strategic advantage of precise classification. It is to use a cudgel where a scalpel is required. Therefore, the smartest way to deal with these forces is not to seek a method of emotional self-preservation, as the Stoics would have you believe. Theirs is a philosophy of endurance, not of victory. It teaches a man how to be a more comfortable prisoner in his own cell. The smartest way, the only way for a man of consequence, is to master the arts of power. It is to understand that every human interaction is a transaction of influence. Your objective is not to heal or to protect your peace. Your objective is to emerge from every encounter with your power either enhanced or at the very least undiminished. This treatise will not offer you comfort. It will not validate your feelings of being wronged. It will provide something far more valuable, a manual of operations. We will dissect the anatomy of these human challenges not as personal insults, but as strategic problems to be solved. We will study the utility of strategic silence, the economy of calculated cruelty, the theater of public perception, and the absolute necessity of emotional detachment, not as a path to tranquility, but as a prerequisite for command. Forget dealing with toxic people. It is time to learn how to master them. The foundational principle that separates the man of power from the common man lies in his understanding and application of virtù and fortuna. Most men live as leaves in the wind, entirely subject to the whims of fortuna, the unpredictable tempests of fortune, luck, and circumstance. They lament their bad luck when a rival prospers. They curse the heavens when a plan goes awry. They feel personally persecuted by the natural chaos of the world. They are passive subjects in the kingdom of chance. A prince, however, acknowledges the sovereignty of fortuna over perhaps half of human affairs, but he does not surrender the other half. This remaining territory belongs to virtu, to his skill, his will, his strategic prowess, his courage, and his capacity for decisive action. He understands that fortuna is a raging river. The unprepared man will see his house and lands washed away by its floods. But the man of virtu does not pray for the river to subside. During times of calm, he builds dams, levees, and channels not to stop the river, but to direct its force to his own advantage. The provocations of your rivals, the betrayals of your allies, the shifting sentiments of the crowd, these are all manifestations of fortuna. They are the weather. To react emotionally to them is to confess that you have built no shelters, that you are a helpless victim of the storm. The man who is angered by an insult, who is thrown into despair by a setback, has been defeated not by his rival, but by fortuna itself. The demonstration of virtu, then, is the application of a calculated response. It is the use of your intellect and will to navigate, redirect, and even exploit the chaotic energies unleashed by others. Your rival's angry outburst is not an injury to your pride. It is a flood of energy that, if properly channeled, can be used to turn the mills of your own enterprise. His predictable envy is not a burden. It is a stable current you can use to sail your own ship. The entire art of power lies in this transposition, transforming the random assaults of fortuna into opportunities for the display of your virtu. This requires a mind that is not a tranquil garden, but a disciplined war room, constantly assessing, analyzing, and strategizing. Let us now apply this principle to the theater of engagement. You are in a council meeting. Your rival Cassius has launched his veiled attack. We have established that a reflexive emotional defense is a strategic disaster. But what is the calculated alternative? Your response must be dictated by a swift and ruthless analysis of your strategic objective. This analysis consists of 4 primary questions. What is the source of the threat? Is Cassius acting alone, driven by his own petty ambition? Or is he the mouthpiece for a more powerful faction, a test balloon sent up to gauge your strength? The response to an isolated upstart is different from the response to the agent of a powerful conspiracy. What is the nature of the arena? Who is the audience for this confrontation? Is it the prince whose favor is paramount? Is it your peers whose respect you must command? Or is it your subordinates before whom you must project an aura of unassailable authority? An action that wins the admiration of the soldiers may earn the distrust of the king. What is the currency of power in this room? Is it the appearance of moral virtue? Is it the demonstration of raw intellectual superiority? Is it the projection of quiet, intimidating strength? You must know what the arbiters of power in the room value most and tailor your performance accordingly. What is the desired long-term outcome? Is your goal to neutralize Cassius permanently? Is it to merely win the current point of debate? Or is it to use his attack as an opportunity to demonstrate your own magnanimity and win allies who are impressed by your restraint? Only after considering these variables does the prince choose his weapon from the armory of response. The weapons are many and must be chosen with care. The weapon of strategic silence. As we have discussed, this is often the most powerful. It is a refusal to engage, which communicates that the attack is beneath consideration. It unnerves the opponent and forces him to reveal more of his strategy as he escalates in desperation. It is best used against an opponent of lower status or when the audience values poise and control. The weapon of feigned agreement. This is a subtle tool of the fox. You meet Cassius's point with apparent thoughtfulness. An excellent point, Cassius. The integrity of these numbers is indeed paramount. Perhaps you would be willing to lead a small committee to conduct this re-examination and report back to us. In one move, you have appeared reasonable and diligent, while burdening your rival with a tedious task for which he will be held responsible. You have turned his attack into his own new assignment, the weapon of the sharp surgical retort. This is the tool of the lion to be used sparingly but decisively. It is not a lengthy defense, but a single swift counter-thrust that exposes the weakness of the opponent's position or motive. It might be, "We all value diligence, Cassius, but we also value forward momentum." If you have a specific substantive objection, state it now. Otherwise, let us not waste the council's time with vague anxieties. This demonstrates your command and your impatience with frivolous challenges. The weapon of strategic magnanimity. This is used when you are in a position of unassailable strength. You allow the attack to glance off you, and then you praise your rival for his passion. I appreciate Cassius's commitment to excellence. It is that kind of rigorous spirit that ensures our enterprise remains strong. This performance of generosity in the face of aggression can win you the admiration of the onlookers and make your rival appear petty and ungracious. The choice is not a matter of personal feeling. It is a matter of political calculation. The untrained man acts from his gut. The prince acts from his playbook. To master this art, one must study the nature of one's adversaries. They are not complex enigmas. Men in their ambitions and their fears are remarkably transparent creatures to the discerning eye. Their primary weakness is their own ego. The ego craves recognition and fears humiliation. It is a hungry ghost that is never satisfied. This makes them predictable. The man who is driven by envy will always attack those who possess what he lacks. The man who is insecure in his position will always be the loudest in proclaiming his own loyalty. Consider the historical example of Fabius Maximus during Rome's war with Hannibal. Hannibal, a master of the battlefield, repeatedly tried to provoke Fabius into open decisive combat, where Hannibal's genius for tactics would be supreme. He ravaged the Italian countryside, taunted the Roman legions, and insulted Fabius's honor. A lesser general, a man ruled by his ego, would have reacted. He would have charged into battle to defend his reputation and been annihilated. But Fabius was a strategist. He understood that his strength was not in pitched battles, but in a war of attrition. He refused to be baited. He employed strategic silence and avoidance, shadowing Hannibal's army, cutting off his supply lines, and frustrating his grand designs. His rivals in Rome called him a coward. The populace grew restless. But Fabius was not playing for the approval of the crowd. He was playing to win the war. His refusal to react to provocation saved Rome. He understood that true power is not always found in the glorious charge, but sometimes in the disciplined, patient refusal to engage. This brings us to the crucial concept of the economy of cruelty. The sentimentalist believes that kindness is always a virtue and cruelty always a vice. The prince knows that timing and application are everything. A single well-timed act of what appears to be cruelty can be the most merciful course of action for the long-term stability of the state. When Cesare Borgia took control of the Romagna, the province was infested with petty, lawless barons who preyed upon the people. The region was in chaos. Borgia appointed a ruthless and efficient lieutenant, Ramiro de Orco, to pacify the province. De Orco succeeded with brutal efficacy, executing criminals and imposing a stark and terrifying order. In a short time, the Romagna was peaceful and secure. However, de Orco's methods had earned him the hatred of the people. Borgia, knowing this, understood that the instrument had served its purpose. To win the loyalty of the people and consolidate his own power, he had de Orco publicly arrested, tried, and executed in the public square, his body cut in two. This single, spectacularly cruel act achieved two objectives. It satisfied the people's desire for vengeance against the Orco, and it left them in a state of awed terror at the power of their new Prince Borgia. It was a masterpiece of political theater, a cruelty used with such precision that it produced stability and allegiance. A prince must not shrink from such necessities. To allow a challenge to your authority to go unanswered out of a misplaced sense of compassion is to invite a dozen more challenges. This does not mean you must be wantonly cruel. That is the mark of a crude tyrant and breeds rebellion. But you must be willing and able to be cruel when the preservation of your state requires it. Your actions must be swift, decisive, and rare, so that they inspire awe rather than persistent hatred. This is inextricably linked to the management of appearances. It is not necessary for a prince to be virtuous, but it is absolutely necessary for him to appear virtuous. The masses judge by what they see, not by what is real. You must cultivate a public reputation for mercy, integrity, and piety, even as you are prepared to act with ruthless pragmatism in private. When you must neutralize a rival, it is often best to do so while publicly lamenting the unfortunate necessity of the action. You must be both the lion and the fox, but always wear the face of the lamb when you are in the public square. Let us return to the most intimate battlefield, your own mind. The Stoics were correct in one respect. The greatest resource a leader possesses is his own mental fortitude. But their purpose was flawed. The goal of this fortitude is not inner peace. It is strategic clarity and the preservation of energy. After you have vanquished a rival either through open action or by rendering him irrelevant, it is a grave error to allow him to occupy your thoughts. To ruminate on his past insults, to savor your victory, or to feel guilt over the methods you employed are all forms of strategic indulgence. It is a waste of mental energy that could be better spent analyzing the next threat or solidifying your position. True detachment for a prince is not a therapeutic process of healing. It is an act of ruthless mental discipline. It is the ability to view past conflicts, allies, and enemies with the cold, dispassionate eye of a historian analyzing a finished campaign. The lessons are extracted, the strategies are refined, and the emotional residue is discarded as useless chaff. You cannot afford the luxury of being haunted. The ghost of a past rival is a thief of future victories. This disciplined detachment is the only antidote to the most dangerous poison a prince can face: the need for approval. This desire is the root of all strategic weakness. You want your rivals to admit you were right. You want your followers to love you. You want the vanquished to respect you. These desires make you predictable and vulnerable. A prince does not seek love. He avoids hatred. Love is an unreliable bond easily broken by self-interest. Fear is a far more consistent motivator. A prince should strive to be feared in such a way that if he cannot win love, he at least avoids being hated. This requires a careful balance of decisive strength and the avoidance of arbitrary cruelty. You do not need the approval of men you intend to lead or defeat. You require their compliance. Their inner thoughts are irrelevant so long as their outward actions serve your purpose. To spend even a moment of your time wondering if a defeated rival respects you is a profound misunderstanding of your role. His respect is worthless. His inability to challenge you again is priceless. Therefore, you must build your self-worth not on the shifting sands of external validation, but on the bedrock of your own efficacy. Your worth is measured by a single metric: your ability to achieve your objectives and maintain the security of your state. Do your plans succeed? Is your authority secure? Are your rivals neutralized? These are the questions that matter. The applause of the crowd is a fleeting sound, but the foundation of a secure state is a legacy built in stone. The pain a rival inflicts upon you is not a personal wound to be lamented. It is a source of invaluable data. It reveals his tactics. It illuminates your own vulnerabilities. The intelligent prince does not merely endure pain, he dissects it. The specific nature of the insult shows you what he believes will unsettle you. The method of his attack reveals his own strategic assumptions. The pain is a free lesson in the art of war. Use it. Convert it into a higher wall, a sharper spear, a more deceptive strategy. Your best revenge is not a fiery retort. It is the construction of an unassailable position of power, built in part from the intelligence you gathered from his attack. In conclusion, let us cast aside the comforting but useless philosophies of the common man. The world is a dynamic and dangerous arena of competing wills. The smartest way to deal with the forces that oppose you is not to seek refuge in an inner citadel of peace, but to master the timeless principles of power. Classify your opponents, analyze their motives, master the full arsenal of response from strategic silence to calculated cruelty. Understand that your composure is a weapon, your emotions are tools, and your mind is a command center. Anchor your worth in your own efficacy, not in the approval of others. Transform the random attacks of Fortuna into opportunities to display your virtue. Do not seek to be untouchable. Seek to be victorious. Do not pray for a world without enemies. Pray for the wisdom and the will to defeat the ones you have. The game of power is always being played. The only choice is whether you will be a piece on the board or the player who commands it.